Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm bringing to you guys is items you need in New World before the Mutations update comes along. This is basically going to be on some of the most crucial things that you can do to prepare yourselves, but also these items really you need to be stockpiling if you want to be ahead of this update. And I'm going to back this up with things that have been confirmed through the forums from devs and from community managers, and of course some stuff we've seen in things like the patch notes, so you guys are on top form for what you can expect from this patch and how it'll all fit together with the tips that I give you today. Now, before we fully jump into today's video, if you are new to the channel, please do make sure that you drop a subscribe down below. We're pushing very, very close to 13,000 subscribers. If you guys could support me, help me out and subscribe down below, that would be much, much appreciated. And without further ado, let's jump into it here. So, the first thing is going to be getting yourself a full 590 plus gear set for PvP, PvE, etc. Whatever you do. Potentially different pieces for both. I would recommend, particularly you want to be looking out for things that are going to be really good for specifically the mutations if you plan to do those, as that is going to be very, very valuable. Now, the reason for this is on the forums here, as you guys can see, Zin, again, I've shown this before in previous videos, but has confirmed that they will be looking into reducing the required minimum gear score to 590, and therefore you'll be able to use Umbral shards to upgrade your items from 590 plus all the way up to 625. So obviously you go from 590 to 600. It'll get the extra stat point, which has been confirmed as well, and then you will get it to 625. Now, it does say that you still need the expertise to be 600, and I'm going to go over a really, really good way to prepare for that as well in just a moment here. But this is really, really good. So any good 590 plus items for PvE, PvP, I'll jump in and show you a few of mine as some examples, and that's going to be really, really pivotal. So as you guys saw there, anything 590 and above is going to be a really, really good thing to get your hands on. Currently, I'm wearing my weaponsmithing gear, but if we have a look at some of the items I have in my inventory here, you guys will be able to see I've got items like Void Bent. Now, this stuff is really, really good. Obviously, it's already at 600, so you will be able to upgrade that should you want to. And of course, as you can see, elemental resistance is pretty high on Void Bent armor, so it might not even be a bad thing at all to upgrade to 625 when the Umbral system does come out, because of course, that will allow you to get some elemental resistances, which is going to be really, really good in Mutations. So keep an eye out for that. I'll keep you guys updated with whether it is actually worth it or not. I'm going to try it out for you, but I'm thinking that it's going to probably be quite good. And then I've got other pieces of items that I use, such as these legs here. 595 gear score rating. Decent armor, decent elemental, and physical resistances. Bear in mind they are light legs. And with that, I've also got Leeching Path of Destiny and Lost Ward. Now, realistically, Leeching Path of Destiny is a great perk to have on. Lost Ward isn't really that amazing, but I think it will be good in the expeditions. I just have these as my legs for now, but this is something that I could work to try and get two really, really good perks on, so that when I do upgrade them to 600 and then to 625, it's much more worth it. But when we take a look at something like this one here, these are 590 Beast Hunter boots, but these have Fortifying Sacred Ground, and they have Resilient on, which is really, really good. And of course, they do have both Strength and Focus, so when I'm running my Paladin build, which is what I'm running right now, this is actually the perfect piece for me. So that one going up to 625 or 600 first and then 625 makes a lot of sense. Now, it's also a good idea to get and stockpile some items that are going to specifically help you with mutated expeditions if you plan to do those as well, because they are going to shape up to be pretty difficult. So if you're making sure that you get a 590 piece of gear or a few pieces of gear 590 plus that are specifically for mutations, for example, right here I have this Arboreal Primeval Great Axe. This I've put a max level gem on so that I've got the maximum amount of nature damage, because obviously it's an arboreal one, it comes with that on, so you can go ahead and do that. It's also got Corrupted Bane on, so when I use this in Dynasty, so they're going to be weak to corrupted damage, so I'm obviously going to get extra damage to them there. Also, the Nature Gem does more damage. The Arcane Gem is probably better, but this one is, of course, you can't change the gem because it's an arboreal one, so that means that gem comes in the item. But it is worth it because obviously it's got the Corrupted Bane as well. Couldn't find one with Arcane, so I went with this. Again, keen. Global crit increase is just really, really good on a Grey Axe. It's always going to be needed. So something like that right there. I use this for invasions at the moment, and it's also going to be really, really good for when these updates of mutations do come out. So I've also got that one on the back burner. I can start upgrading that to 600 once I do get to 600 expertise, and then start to pedal that up to 625 slowly but surely as well. Now, additionally, I've got weapons such as the Dark Sky here. This one is actually pretty decent for Garden of Genesis because obviously it's got the fire damage on, it's got an ignited gem, and then also also it does slash damage, which does extra damage to angry earth mobs. Now, one thing that you could do, obviously, enchanted on there is really good, keenly fortified. Fortifying whirlwind I don't particularly use, so maybe I could try and get a better item, but again, this one starts at 600, so it's a legendary item. It's already at 600, so that gives me a little bit of a boost, but again, I could use that and upgrade it if I want to, or again, you could go for a 590 item, so just pick out the ones that are going to be the best for you. So the next thing that I want to bring to you guys here is another forums update. This one is by Zin again, and he said that Gypsum Cast will be a guaranteed method to get your expertise bumps from 590 to 600 once the patch goes live. So if you are already capped at 590 in all slots, saving casts until the next patch drops is the best use of them. Now, this is really, really good, and that information paired with this bit from the patch notes too, from the January release notes on the PTR part of the forums, says that general enhancements and QOL improvements, we addressed an issue where Gypsum casts were only providing a +1 bonus when opening above gear score 585 for an item. Now, upgrades from Gypsum Cast from 585 to 600 should be at least +2, except from when the expertise is 599, of course, because you can only get one up to the new maximum of 600. Now, how that works in-game in practice then is, of course, if I open up my inventory, you guys can see on the left-hand side here, I've got all of my armor up to 590, I've got the shield on 541, and then some pretty abysmal jewelry scores, so we won't look at those. But what it does mean is that if I want to automatically get these scores up, so from 590 to 600 on all of my armor pieces when this update drops, I will need to stockpile between 5 and 6 of these Gypsum casts. Now, of course, you will only need 6 as a maximum. The reason I say 5 is because 2 times 5 is obviously 10, and that gets you the 10 that you need from 590 to 600. But I would go for 6 just on the off chance for some reason it still does a 1 in there. You get to 599 and you still need another one. I'm doing an extra one, but you can probably survive on 5. It's up to you if you want to live life on the edge or not. Personally, I'm not feeling it. So what I've gone ahead and done is started to stockpile some of these. I've got a chestplate one, which I kept in here to show you guys. This is my extra chestplate Gypsum cast here. And then every single day, if I make one up until the update, I can make a Gypsum orb here. I can get a second chestplate one, and that means I need another 3 or another 4 for me that I'm going to do. And then when that obviously is released, these are crafted daily. So I'm now locked out for 24 hours from doing another chest piece cast. So you can see there, 21 hours, 59 minutes, so 22-hour lockout. But if I do that every day up until the update drops, when the update does actually eventually drop, I will just be able to open all of them at once, get myself straight up to that 600 gear score, and start working on improving something like maybe the Void Bent chestplate or whatever I choose to upgrade first to 625 as soon as I get my hands on some of those Umbral shards, which is a really, really cool thing. Personally, I would be stockpiling 5 to 6 of these for all of your armor if you've got it to 590, basically anything you've got to 590, but weapons specifically, if you've got your 2 weapons that you use up there, definitely get those. Also, any weapons you're potentially going to use for mutations. For example, I'm looking at potentially specking into the spear, maybe the void gauntlet, maybe the bow. So if I could get maybe one of those, if I do get some extras, I'm going to start to put a few towards that as well, to be able to get myself up to the level where once this releases, I can get at least a couple of weapons, all of my armor, maybe a 3rd or 4th weapon as well, and of course jewelry if I manage to get it anywhere up there in the interim time, then of course I'd do the same for that. But for me personally, it's more of a chance of just getting it to 590 in the first place for jewelry. Now, the reason that this is so important and getting your expertise up to 600 is of course because, like we mentioned before, you will need your expertise to be at 600 in order to get your 590 items, such as of course things like this axe right here, which is a really good PvP axe, 595. That to get to 600, I will need to have 600 expertise with a great axe, regardless of the gear score of the item. As long as it's above 590, I can upgrade it, but only when my expertise hits 600. So doing this straight off the bat and stockpiling these Gypsum casts in advance, if it's possible, is certainly going to be your fastest way, because that does mean, of course, you can get everything up to 600, get your extra stat boosts and such, and then be ready to go once this update does drop, start progressing towards that 625 with whichever gear you choose to do. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is consumables. Consumables obviously are always a really, really good thing, and will certainly increase with price when the new update drops, because of course we will have a new influx of players like we always do with these updates. Load of people coming back to the game, buying up whatever they can find, and of course these brand new mutated expeditions are pretty difficult. So people will want to have all the consumable experience and kind of consumable help that they can to be able to get further in these mutations. Try to clear them first time as the keys are expensive. So things like your Honing Stones, obviously an increase across the board to weapon damage is really, really good. You're also going to see things like your Gemstone Dust. Now this is a tier 4 variant, so you're going to want the tier 5 variant. So it will be this powerful Gemstone Dust here. This one increases absorption of elemental damage types by 35% for 20 seconds or until damage is received 15 times. Now, before this update, this was primarily a PvP thing only. Really use this in wars when you're pushing points and there's a big clump of people. You get an ice storm on you, something like that. You put one of these, you're more than likely to survive it. Now it's actually going to be very, very useful in PvE as well. Obviously, with the mutations, because they have the ice, the fire, the void, and the nature variants. And each of these have a variant of AoE attacks, which the mobs drop onto random players. Sometimes it can be in a very tricky spot, particularly if you're tanking or you're melee DPS, or even if you're a range that's managed to pull aggro for whatever reason. You've got mobs on you, blocking you in, you're stuck on one of these AoEs, you take a lot of damage from it, particularly as you go up with the curses and stuff as well. This is going to be crucial to have on you in order to keep you alive, allow you to sustain for a little bit longer until your healer can get to you, or until you can kill the mobs, etc. So these are going to be really, really pivotal. Now, not only that, but the tier 5 gemstone is also used in the crafting of the mutation orbs. Now, obviously, this can only be done once per week per player, but you do need 10 gemstone dust for each craft, which is actually quite a lot. And you'll see on the market on my server right here, the price of these on my server is already pretty high. 250 for one there, then 290, 295, 300, and 310 is where the most of them are at. So buying 10 of those would be 3.1k, so it's pretty expensive. So with this, if you do see any cheap on your individual servers, you'll know what the prices are like usually. Try to buy some cheap ones as well. If you are able to buy any cheap tier 5 gems that you can actually craft into the gemstone dust, that of course is going to earn you a significant amount of profit when this update drops as well. Now, another thing to break down here is of course things like the Honing Stones. As you guys will see, these are really, really good. And again, these sell for an awful lot. If we look at the market on my server right now, the powerful Honing Stones are selling for 186 per, which is pretty high considering you are going to want to use one every war, every invasion, and it's looking like every mutated expedition as well now to give yourself the best chance at winning it. Now, one thing to make sure that you check on here is, of course, the ingredients. You can see here, just underneath where my camera is, it costs an obsidian voidstone, death quintessence, and fire quintessence. You can actually search for these materials if you just click on that one underneath where it says it, and it'll take you to it. So they cost 71 for a fire quintessence, a death quintessence is 6150, and the voidstone is 2610. So you would just be able to make this shy of a profit right now, obviously depending on trading taxes, but you would just be able to make this and make maybe 20 gold profit right now. But sometimes you can get the materials for a very, very cheap amount, or if you've collected some of the materials and you can buy the rest of them, then you can make these cheaper, and these again are going to sell like absolute hotcakes once this update drops, or indeed you can use them yourself because you probably will need them. So bear that in mind and always look for the components and crafting ingredients for each of these consumables, as well as the consumables themselves. But that is going to be it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed and found this one useful. If you have, like I said at the beginning of today's video, please do make sure to drop a subscribe down below. Your support will be much, much appreciated. And if you did enjoy today's video, please do drop me a like, as it really does help to support me and my content here on YouTube. Other than that, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Thank you for your time, and I will catch you again tomorrow with another upload. Take care, guys, and peace.